Arthur Schopenhauer was a 19th century philosopher who lived in the shadow of the Enlightenment, an era obsessed with reason, progress, and the idea that humans were becoming more rational and civilized. While the thinkers of his time were busy glorifying the promise of a brighter future, Schopenhauer turned in the opposite direction. He didn't see a world becoming more rational or humane. He saw a world endlessly spinning in the same cycle of craving, disappointment, and suffering. At the heart of his philosophy is a brutal observation: life is suffering, not by mistake, but by design. According to Schopenhauer, we are not led by reason or virtue. We are driven by a blind, unconscious force he called the will, a relentless engine that powers all life. It's what makes animals hunt, plants grow, humans strive. Not because these things lead to peace or fulfillment, but because the will must express itself. It wants. That's all it knows. And it's never satisfied. Our desire is at the root cause of all our sufferings, and desire is the shape this will takes inside us. We want things. We chase goals, pleasures, meaning. And even when we get what we want, it's never enough. One desire fades, and another quickly takes its place. We suffer when we lack. We suffer when we gain and realize it wasn't what we hoped. We suffer from the fear of loss and from the memory of losing. The will doesn't care, it keeps pulling us forward, always hungry, always restless. In a world obsessed with self-improvement, positivity, and productivity hacks, Schopenhauer's words cut through the noise. You can hustle, meditate, journal, pray. You can distract yourself with love, status, even spirituality. But eventually, the illusion breaks. The same pain, the same emptiness comes back. The same question whispers, what am I really chasing? And why is it never enough? Schopenhauer wasn't trying to depress us. He was pointing to a deeper truth. Maybe the problem isn't you, maybe it's life itself. A life built on endless wanting, chasing, aching. Unless we become aware of this cycle, we'll mistake striving for meaning. We'll confuse movement with direction. This restlessness isn't a flaw in your personality, it's the nature of the force that drives all life. It's the will, a force that never stops. In this video, we are going to explore 7 dark truths of life from Schopenhauer's philosophy, not to make you hopeless, but to help you see the will for what it really is. To look beyond its illusion, and accept the true nature of life. Now, understanding these truths may not bring happiness. But it might offer something deeper, a stillness. Not from having enough, but from knowing why we never do, and from this stillness we truly begin to grow. 1. Pleasure is just the brief absence of pain. Schopenhauer said something most people don't want to hear, that what we often call happiness isn't real joy. It's just a relief, a break. A moment where the craving stops, but only for a little while. Think about it. When was the last time you felt truly happy? Not just okay or busy, but deeply at peace, without needing anything else? Now ask yourself, was that happiness? Or was it just the end of some discomfort? Hunger, loneliness, stress. You ate something, you felt better. You scrolled through your phone, you felt entertained. You talked to someone, and the silence in your head went quiet, at least for a bit. But then eventually it all comes back. The itch, the need, the feeling that something's still missing. That's the pattern Schopenhauer saw. Life, he said, swings like a pendulum between pain and boredom. You suffer when you don't have what you want. But when you do get it, it's not long before that restless feeling creeps back in. It's not peace, just the brief pause between one want and the next. And the force behind all of this? He called it the will. It's not some noble, grand idea. It's not about purpose or meaning. The will is just this blind, relentless drive inside all of us. It doesn't care if you're happy. It doesn't care if you're exhausted. It just wants. And once it gets what it wants, it moves on, and then it wants again, and again, and again, for as long as it exists. And if you're not aware of it, it'll run your whole life. You'll spend years chasing one thing after another, thinking the next job, the next partner, the next version of yourself will finally be it. But it never is. Because the will doesn't want satisfaction. It wants motion. And it keeps pushing. But the moment you start noticing it, really seeing it for what it is, something shifts. You begin to catch it in the act. That little voice that says, grab your phone. Open Instagram, go and check something. You hear it. And now, you've got a choice. You don't have to obey. That's where real growth starts. Not in some big dramatic transformation. But in the quiet choice to pause. To sit with discomfort instead of running from it. To say, I see you, to the craving, and not give in. It's subtle, but it's powerful. You start to realize that most of what you chase isn't about joy, it's about trying to escape some kind of pain. But what if you stopped running? What if you just stayed with it? The will won't disappear. It'll still a whisper, but now you're not its puppet. And next time you feel that familiar pull, to scroll, to distract, to chase, ask yourself, do I really want this? Or is it just the will again, doing what it always does? Because real strength isn't about constantly getting what you want. It's about learning that maybe you don't need to. And maybe joy, real, lasting joy, doesn't come from feeding every urge. Maybe it comes from learning you don't have to. 2. Growth is desire in disguise. Ask yourself honestly, why am I really chasing growth? Waking up at 5 a.m. Hustling non-stop. Tracking every step, every calorie, every task. On the surface, it looks like discipline. But often, it's not about becoming better, it's about running from the quiet voice that says, who I am right now isn't enough. But that's not growth. That's rejection. Rejection of your present self, disguised as self-improvement. You start working out, not because you respect your body, but because you've learned to hate it. You chase success, not because it brings joy, but because you're terrified of being seen as unworthy. Even love becomes transactional, not a connection, but a fix for the loneliness you are too afraid to sit with. And here's the deeper truth, what we call growth is often just the will wearing a new mask, dressed up in productivity, ambition, or self-help. It's the same insatiable force. It doesn't want peace. It only wants more. So what happens when we grow by listening to the will? We never stop. No matter what we achieve, it never feels like enough. The goalpost moves. The applause fades. The emptiness returns. And so we push harder. We wear burnout like a badge. We confuse pain with purpose. We sacrifice rest, relationships, even our identity, all in service of a desire that doesn't care if we are fulfilled, only that we keep moving. But the worst part isn't the exhaustion. It's the quiet, constant rejection of who we are right now. Every time we chase growth from the will, we reinforce a painful lie. This version of me doesn't deserve love yet. So we postpone peace. We delay self-acceptance. We believe we'll finally be enough, but only after we become someone else. But not all growth is healing. Some growth is escape. Some is self-erasure. We grow from wounds, hoping that if we change enough, we'll finally feel whole. But real peace doesn't come from becoming someone else. It comes from seeing that you were never broken to begin with. So what's the way forward? Awareness. And more importantly, compassion. If you want to stop growing from pain, you have to face it. You have to sit with the parts of yourself you've been trying to fix, outrun, or silence. Because underneath all the striving is usually one quiet, painful belief, there's something wrong with me. And here's the truth, you can't heal what you hate. You might change the outside, but the same wounds keep speaking. So instead of asking, how do I fix myself? Try asking, what part of me needs kindness right now? That simple shift, from judgment to curiosity, is where real growth begins. Take fitness for example. You can train out of shame, punishing a body you've never learned to love. Or you can train from care, strengthening a body you respect. Same action. Entirely different energy. Or similarly with success. If you're chasing it to prove your worth, you'll always feel like a fraud. But if success comes from knowing you already matter, it stops being a performance and starts being an expression of who you are. Even now, if you think being loved will finally make you okay, you'll keep hiding parts of yourself to stay accepted. And deep down, you'll know, you're not really being seen. But when you stop trying to be lovable and start loving yourself, something shifts. You stop performing, and start connecting. Love stops being survival, and starts being real. This is the turning point. Growth doesn't mean becoming someone else. It means becoming more you. Not out of fear. Not out of pressure. But out of stillness, clarity, and the quiet understanding that you are already enough. 3. Love is nature's trick. Schopenhauer believed that romantic love isn't what we think it is. It's not some divine meeting of souls or the key to lasting happiness. Instead, it's a trick, a clever design by nature to keep the species going. Behind the feelings of passion and obsession, there's something primal at work, the will. When you fall deeply in love with someone, it might feel like fate or cosmic connection. But Schopenhauer would say it's biology pulling strings behind the scenes. Your desire isn't always about emotional connection, it's about traits, instincts, and the potential to create strong offspring. That's why we sometimes feel drawn to people who aren't good for us, who cause chaos or pain. The will doesn't care if you're happy. It cares if your genes get passed on, and that's it. Now this might sound bleak at first, but it's actually liberating. Because once you understand that love can be driven by forces outside your control, you stop blindly following every intense feeling. You start to question the attraction instead of surrendering to it. You stop assuming that chemistry equals compatibility. Think of someone who keeps going back to a toxic partner. No matter how much pain the relationship causes, they feel pulled back in. They say it must be love. But in many cases, it's not love, it's addiction. It's biology, attachment, unresolved wounds, and the will creating an illusion. The moment you start recognizing that pull for what it really is, you gain distance from it. You step out of the cycle. You can still love. You can still feel. But now, you're not at the mercy of your emotions. You're watching them with clarity. You are asking the right questions. Do I feel calm with this person, or just excited? Do they bring peace, or just drama and dopamine? Am I choosing this love, or am I being driven by something I don't understand? That's where self-awareness comes in. It doesn't kill love. It makes it conscious. And when love becomes conscious, it becomes something deeper than biology, something truly human. 4. Loneliness is the price of true wisdom. When you finally become aware of the will, that blind, restless force driving your every desire, and begin to question it, a strange shift happens. You start to realize, most of what I want was never really mine. The goals, the lifestyle, the image, the grind. It was all the will, dressed up as ambition, improvement, even love. And when that illusion cracks, when you truly see how deeply it's shaped your life, something inside begins to shift, quietly. Deeply. You don't announce it. You don't need to. But you begin to pull away. You crave silence. A long, quiet walk feels more nourishing than hours of small talk. Books become your friends. Your own thoughts become conversations. And the world, loud, fast, and constantly performing, starts to feel like a place you don't quite belong in anymore. Not because you're angry. Not because you're better. But because you've touched something real. And that realness makes everything fake feel heavier. Schopenhauer once said, the more a man finds his sources of pleasure in himself, the happier he will be. And it's true, as you grow on the inside, you start to notice how many people live only on the outside, chasing distraction, status, or comfort. And your soul starts to pull away. Not to show off, but because you can't stay in the same old spaces anymore. The conversations that used to excite you now feel hollow. And sadly, the world often calls that loneliness. However, for Schopenhauer, wisdom wasn't something you shared at parties. It was something you carried, often alone. Seeing through the illusions of life means losing the comfort of blending in. So what do you do with that solitude? Use it. Let it feed you. Read the things that stretch your thinking. Write just to see what you really believe. Sit with your thoughts instead of running from them. Make things, not for approval, but just to express what's inside. Walk without a goal. Listen without needing to reply. Notice things without judging. Let solitude be your teacher, not your prison. Also, when you're really alone, no noise, no distractions, something strange happens. The will gets loud. That part of you that always wants more starts scrambling for anything, your phone, a snack, some background noise. It hates silence. But if you sit with that silence long enough, something shifts. You start to hear the difference between your true voice and the will's endless wanting. You start to see which desires actually matter, and which are just noise. That's when the real growth happens. 5. Compassion is the highest form of strength. Schopenhauer saw life not as a beautiful story, but as a stage filled with suffering. And he didn't mean that as a metaphor. He believed pain is at the very heart of existence. The constant hunger to survive, the endless chase for satisfaction, the loneliness behind our wants, this is what life is made of. So in a world built on that kind of struggle, what could possibly save us? For Schopenhauer, the answer was compassion. Compassion is that rare moment when you feel someone else's pain, and it hits you, because it feels like your own. And in that moment, something shifts. You are not thinking about winning or gaining or getting ahead. You just want to help. To Schopenhauer, that was powerful. Because for a brief time, the will, that force inside us that always wants, goes quiet. So compassion isn't just a nice feeling. It's a kind of rebellion. While the will says, take, compassion says, give. While the will wants more, compassion says, this is enough. That's why Schopenhauer believed real ethics don't come from rules or logic, they come from feeling. From recognizing suffering in someone else, and caring enough to respond. In today's world, where everything is about success and self-improvement, compassion can seem soft, but it's not. It takes real strength to set aside your own needs and focus on someone else's. While the ego wants to